Good morning, everyone, and thank you once again for joining us for our webinar. This will be the last one for 2024, and we have two more, one in January and one in February coming up. I'd like to thank you all for joining us on this not so nice day. I'm sure you're glad that we're doing this on Zoom and you didn't have to get out and travel to us. As Brendan said, please keep your mics closed, but as you think of your questions, we do not have a break during this session. We ask you to put them in the chat box immediately, so Katia, our executive director, is ready and prepared when it comes to question and answer period to ask some of our presenter. I would like to acknowledge our funders, the Secrétariat aux relations avec les Québécois expression anglaise, for the funding that has allowed us to produce these webinars, and also acknowledge and thank our partner, Educalois, for their support with our webinar project. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our presenter. We're very grateful to have her take time from her busy schedule, and it's Maître Salomé Dufour-Simard, who graduated from the Université de Québec in Montreal, where she completed her law degree in 2021 and was admitted to the Quebec Bar in 2022. During her university studies, Maître Dufour-Simard was involved in the Mobile Legal Clinic, an organization whose mission is to prioritize access to justice for people experiencing homelessness. This experience was very enriching and gave birth to her desire for social justice. Before joining the legal services of Pointe-Saint-Charles, Maître Dufour-Simard also had the opportunity to work in a boutique law firm located in Old Montreal, practicing family law. This experience allowed her to develop a strong interest in family law. Maître Dufour-Simard joined the SJC in the summer of 2023, and her practice is very varied, but focuses mainly on family law, administrative law, and housing law. And today we're going to be talking about legal aid and who qualifies, sorry, and what is the process in order to get help from legal aid. So without further ado, thank you so very, very much for joining us. And her presentation will be available 10 days after when we send you the link for the recording. You will also get Maître Dufour's presentation along with it. I turn it over to you immediately, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ruth. So good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be with you today. As Ruth and Brendan said, there will be a Q&A question after, so please note your questions, and we'll do this at the end of the presentation. So I'll start by explaining a little bit our work. Next slide, Brendan. Thank you. So I work at the Service juridique communautaire de Pointe-Saint-Charles, Little Burgundy, and Griffintown. We are the only legal aid center in Quebec. So you'll see through the presentation that they are legal aid offices, but here we are a legal aid center. This means that we are independent and autonomous from the government, and our services and activities are divided in two categories. So of course, we provide legal aid services, which we're going to talk about today. But we also have a second category, which is our community action. So, and the conference today is part of our second category, the community action. We work in a perspective of access to justice, collective right advocacy, and popular education. Our organization was founded in the late 1960s. It was the first legal aid center in Quebec. Actually, we are the one who inspired the creation of the Quebec Legal Aid Network, which was created in 1972. We have a board of directors, which is composed of community members as well as representatives from community organizations from Pointe-Saint-Charles, Little Burgundy, and Griffintown. Anyone living in those neighborhoods who's older than 18 years old and who supports or or mission can be part of our organization and can become a member. I mentioned as well that you do not have to be a member to take part in our activities and to have access to our legal services. So I'm going to start the presentation about the legal aid, the legal aid part. You can swipe to the next slide. Thank you. So the presentation today is going to be divided in sorry, something popped off on my screen. All right. So our presentation today is going to be divided in two parts. I'm going to first speak about the criteria to be accepted for legal aid and the type of cases that can be accepted and for which we can take a file. And afterwards, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the process, how to book an appointment, where to book an appointment, which documents you need to bring out for the appointment. So which office to contact? So if you don't know, there are a lot of legal aid offices in Quebec and in Montreal as well. There are two criteria to check out to see which legal aid office to contact. First of all, you need to see what's the nature of your problem and according to your place of residence. So next slide, please. Thank you. According to the nature of your problem, there are specific legal aid centers for specific kind of problems. There are a legal aid office for immigration law, criminal law, youth law, mental health, and then civil law. This means that if you, for example, our office here at the Service Juridique de Pointe-Saint-Charles, we are a civil law legal aid office, which means that I cannot take cases for criminal problem, immigration problem, or youth problem. Those are specific legal aid offices, and this is the case for Montreal. However, if you live in a region, for example, if you live in the Bas-Saint-Laurent, it's one office who does all those kind of law, but there are lawyers that specifies in different kinds of law in said office. But here in Montreal, it's really all of those kind of offices, which means that you have to be careful where you book your appointment, because if you come to see me for a criminal situation, I'm going to refer you to the good office, because I really don't do that kind of law. Next slide, please. If the second criteria you need to look out is for the place of residence. So it works by neighborhood, and this I'm speaking for Montreal as well, because if you live in a region, it's going to be different. But here in Montreal, there are multiple legal aid offices that are divided by a neighborhood. So, for example, here we cover the neighborhood of Pointe-Saint-Charles, Little Burgundy, and Griffintown. There's also the Southwest Legal Aid Office, which is close by, that covers Verdun, Pointe-Claire, all the West Island, Saint-Henri. There's the Legal Aid Office Centre-Sud, which covers that neighborhood, Legal Aid Office Maisonneuve-Mercier, Crémazie, Côte-des-Neiges. So all the legal aid offices, they cover a different postal code. If you don't know where to go, which is possible, sometimes you can live in between. For example, if you live in Saint-Henri, you don't know if you have to come here or to the Southwest Legal Aid. You can look, and we'll go on said website soon, but you can go on the Commission des Services Juridiques, which is like the big boss of the legal aid, and you can enter your postal code to see where you need to call to book an appointment. I mentioned that there are civil law legal aid offices, which is our case. And those kind of offices, we do multiple area of law. We do family, housing law, welfare, and a little bit of everything in between, which is related to civil law. Next slide. The second part to see if you're eligible to legal aid, it's the eligibility, which is like the big part. When you figured out which office to call according to your postal code and to the problem you are having, you need to see if you're eligible to legal aid. So you can know a little bit about it, but in doubt, if you don't know if you're eligible, you can always call and book an appointment, and it's the lawyer who you're gonna meet, who's gonna do the test to see if you're eligible. He's gonna ask you questions to see if it's the case. The eligibility is in there are two criteria to see if you're eligible to legal aid. The first test is the financial eligibility, because legal aid is for a person who don't necessarily have a lot of money. And the second part is the nature of the requested service. So it's not all kind of services who are covered by legal aid. There are some that are always covered, some others that are sometimes covered, and some that are never covered. Next slide. So the financial eligibility, which is the big part. The financial eligibility is different according to your family composition. So you can be eligible to legal aid without paying, so freely, and you can be eligible to legal aid with a contribution that goes between $100 and $800 depending on your financial situation. Those amounts are changing every year on May 31st of every year. So they go a little bit higher every year because of the situation that we all know. And it's going to be different according to your family composition. And by that, I mean if you're a single person, if you're single with one child, single with two children, if you have a spouse, with one child, or a spouse with two children. So the bigger the family, the higher amount you can make per year. Second of all, it's the proof of your income, so how much you make per year. And for this, it's not only if you work or not. We take into consideration all kind of income. So we take if, for example, you receive employment insurance, if you receive your QPP, your old age pension, we really take everything. Normally, when you come to book an appointment, we're going to ask you to bring your provincial notice of assessment for the previous year. So this is the amount that we base on our test on. However, for example, if last year I worked at some place and I made $20,000 in 2023, but this year I started a new job in January and I'm gonna make more money, I'm gonna ask the person who comes to see me in that situation to give me your information for this year because your income has changed since last year. So for the proof of income, it's going to depend on your situation. We can take the one from last year or the one for the year that's currently happening. And as well, we're going to ask you how much you have in your bank account, if you have any investments, if you have RSPs, if you have any savings. So we really take everything in consideration. If you are the owner of a residence, we're going to take that into consideration, but we're going to only take the value at which your residence is evaluated, and we're going to subtract your mortgage. So to see really how much the net worth. If you have other assets, we don't take into consideration your car or your furniture. So it's really bank accounts of all kind, if you are owner or not, and your yearly income. So next slide. If, as I said earlier, you can be eligible to free legal aid or with a financial contribution. If you want to look a little bit about it, you can as well go on the Commission des services juridiques to see the barème, so how much it is per category, per category. So single person with a spouse, and between 100 and 800. As soon as you receive welfare, so if you receive welfare for the month you're coming to see me, you're eligible to legal aid, to free legal aid. So I'm not going to ask you any further questions. I'm going to ask you just to show me your welfare slip of the month, and then I'm going to open a file for the financial part. Next slide. There's you can open the site web. Thank you. So there's a little test that you can do on the Commission des services juridiques to see if you qualify financially for legal aid. So we're going to do the test together just to see what are the questions. And the questions are going to vary whether you check single person, adult and one child, or spouses. It's important to mention that if you check a box that says child, it is not every children that are taken into consideration. We are talking of children that are still full-time students, and that are full-time students, second, that are living with you, and third, that are with you at least 40% of the time. So if you have a child that is like 50 years old that's living with you, it's not going to be considered as adult and one child. The child really needs to be full-time students. We might ask the proof that he's a full-time student. So for example, a schedule for the session, and we might have questions regarding that, just because it can differ the contributions that you're going to have to pay. So we're going to do it. You can check single person. So you check the case and then next. So are you a member of your family providing last resort assistance program, so social assistance? We're going to check no, because as I said, if we check yes, it's going to tell you that you're eligible to legal aid, because if you receive social assistance, you're automatically eligible for free. So we're going to check no. It's going to ask you if you're living in the region of Abitibi-Témiscamingue, sorry, Côte-Nord, ou des Îles de la Madeleine. So it's not our situation, so we're going to check no. What is your annual family income before paying taxes? So that's an important specification. Most of the time, when people come to see us, they don't necessarily have their income tax return. They can as well provide us with their pay stub from their work, or sometimes they're just going to tell us, I'm receiving 1,000 per 2 weeks in my bank account. But this is not the number that we can take into consideration, because this number, it's after taxes. The amount we take, it's really the amount before taxes. Therefore, we really need the pay stub or the exact amount. So for example, we're going to put yearly income, 30,000. All right. Liquidities. So I mentioned earlier that we take into consideration the liquidity. So everything that you have in your bank account, value of your assets can be converted into cash at short notice. For example, bank accounts, Quebec saving bonds, stock market shares, term deposits, etc. The most that you can have, okay, for example, if I'm with my yearly income, I'm eligible for free. You can have maximum 2,500 of liquidities in your bank account if you're a single person to be eligible for free. If you're a family, that amount is of 5,000. So we're going to put the 2,000. Value of your residence, the one that appears on your municipal tax statement. So we're going to put 0, because we don't often have people who are the owner of a residence. But if it's the case, in that box, you would put the value on your municipal tax statement. Value of your other assets, so property other than your residence, RSP, so registered retirement saving plans, registered retirement income fund, VRSPs, etc. And it's specified, as I said, do not put the value of furniture that garnish your residence or your car. So if you have an RSP, a registered retirement saving plan, it's considered for us as an asset and not a liquidity. So in that box, you can put 2,000. And all the amounts that we put, it's really the amounts that are in all your bank accounts at the date that you're coming to see us. Next, yeah. So debts, we don't take into consideration your debts, unfortunately, unless you have a residence. If you have a residence and you're the owner of it, we deduct your mortgage of it, of course, but we can as well deduct all your debts. So line of credit, credit card, money loan. However, if you only have liquidities, we cannot deduct all your debt, so that you can put 0, since we put before that we didn't, we weren't the owner of a residence. So you can put next. If you pay child support or spousal support, you will have to enter the annual amount in that box, because it's taken into consideration by us for the eligibility, but it's not that often that this happens, so you can put 0. Show result. So it's going to tell you that according to the information provided, it may be that you are eligible for the contribution legal aid component. A person eligible for contributory legal aid is entitled to legal services upon payment of a contribution of between $100 and $800 toward the cost of service, depending on his or her situation. With this type of legal aid, it's possible to know the cost of the legal aid services in advance. So if you're eligible to legal aid with a contribution, it's important to know that you won't have to pay the full amount right at the beginning. The only amount that you have to pay for us to open a file, it's $50. And then after, we can take a payment agreement, and you will have to pay $50 per month until the full amount is paid. So if, for example, you're eligible to 800, you don't have to pay the full 800 now. It can be over a few months. If you want, you can pay the full amount now. It's just really the minimum to open the file at the beginning. It's $50. Next slide. No, we go back to the PowerPoint, sorry. Thank you. So this concludes for the financial eligibility. It's really, really specific rules that are sometimes difficult to apply because it really depends of your situation, of how many people are in your family. So when in doubt, you better just call us and book an appointment. And when you're going to come to see the lawyer, he or she's going to make the test to see if you meet the criteria for this. The second part to the legal aid eligibility is the nature of the requested service. So as I said, the service can always be covered, sometimes covered, or never covered. For example, the services that are always covered, it's when you can test a decision from welfare, whether you're at the first step or appealing at court. Everything regarding family law. So if you want a divorce, if you want to make an application for child support, for custody, if you want to annul the marriage, everything that's regarding family law is always covered. Some things are sometimes covered, and it's to the discretion of the lawyer you're meeting. So housing law is the most, we have a lot of housing law files here at the office, and I'd say that it's most of the time covers, but for it to be covered, you need to be staying in the apartment where you have a problem now. So for example, if you're coming to see me today and you tell me, oh, I had a problem, I have a problem with my landlord in my past apartment where I was staying. So it's not going to be covered because you might have a problem now, but it's not regarding a place where you're staying at now. As for the will, if you want to make your will, it's covered sometimes. So if you have difficulty to make it yourself, it's going to be covered and you will be able to meet a notary to do so. Some services are never covered. So, for example, parking tickets, we cannot contest it. And when I say we, it's not just our office, it's for all the offices. So criminal, immigration, youth, and mental health. So parking tickets are never covered. And the other big thing that is never covered is defamation. So whether it's just a formal notice that you want to send regarding defamation, or if you want to take the case to court, in both of these situations, we cannot do it. Some other things that are always covered, it's if you want to open a tutorship for you or for someone, this is something that we can help you with. And yeah, for those are the main files that we see at the legal aid office. I'm not going to speak about the criminal because it's not something that we do at our office, but most of the things are covered for criminal law. You can change the slide. It's not because you come to see a legal aid office that you don't have the freedom of choice of your attorney. So it's something that you have the right to choose. When you call to book an appointment at a legal aid office, however, you're not going to choose your attorney. So they're going to give you an appointment and you're going to meet the attorney who's present that day. However, they are attorneys we call private practice lawyers. So they don't practice in the legal aid offices, but they accept legal aid mandates, which means that if you have an attorney of your own that doesn't practice in a legal aid office, but he accepts to take your case and to be paid by the government, it can be done. It's also the case sometimes when, for example, if I have a conflict of interest with someone who's coming to see me, I'm going to refer that person to a private practice lawyer so that lawyer can take the file. There are private practice lawyers everywhere in Quebec, and you can always look on the Bottin des Avocats, which is the registration for all the lawyers of Quebec. And on that website, you can select, if you're looking for a lawyer that accepts legal aid mandate, you can select the type of law that you're looking for. So is it family law, housing law, administrative law? You can as well select your region. Is it Montreal, Quebec, Côte-Nord? And there's a little box that you can check to see all the lawyers that accept legal aid mandate. So it's always an option that you have to choose your own attorney. You can change the slide. As I said, so the choice of your lawyer, in civil law, there are all the legal aid offices. So Southwest Legal Aid Office, our office, Montreal North Legal Aid Office, and other legal aid office. But above all that, they are private practice lawyers, and they are really not attached to any of the legal aid offices. They practice on their own, so in their own offices, and they can take your cases. You won't have to pay for anything. It's the same as you were coming to see us. It's just that it's in a different office. You can change. So you can always call us if you live in our neighborhood. You can call us to book an appointment. There's a number on the screen. We are open from Monday to Friday from 8:30 to noon and from 1 to 4:30 p.m. Can I share my screen or not? Just to show, I would like to show.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm going to stop and you can go ahead and share yours.
Okay,
yes.
I would like to show you the website to see in which legal aid office you can go. So I'm not the most technological person.
So click the green share button at the bottom. There you go.
Okay, you see it?
It's coming up. Yes, we see your PowerPoint right now.
And now?
Now we see the website with a map.
All right, perfect.
Can you just zoom in on this a little bit more because it's kind of small?
I'm not sure I can.
If you hold down Control on your keyboard and roll up with your mouse wheel, it'll get big.
Okay. So it's on the Commission des Services Juridiques website, and you have all the legal aid offices by region, so Abitibi-Témiscamingue, and if, for example, I click on Montreal, all the legal aid offices are there. So we can just scroll and you see all the lawyers per legal aid offices. But if you don't know, for example, your region, you can just click the section postal code and you enter the first 3 letters of your postal code, search, and it's going to tell you which legal aid offices you need to call to book an appointment. So it's really a nice way if you don't know where to go. So it's on the Commission des Services Juridiques website, and there's as well as a lot of information about the legal aid offices, all the information, what is legal aid, am I financially eligible, how do I apply? So if you have any questions, you can as well look on that website.
And the link has been shared in the chat as well.
Perfect. All right, so that concludes the presentation, but I've seen a lot of questions pop up on the chat.
Well, thank you ever so much. That was very informative, and I'm sure there will be a lot of questions, and there might be some from the different regions as well, since we're provincial, and we do have people here from Lower North Shore, Blanc-Sablon, and Lower Laurentians, and Laval, etc. So without further ado from me, Katia, do you have some questions and you ready to ask?
Yeah, I'm just finishing writing my sentence.
Well, that's great, and please don't be shy. Put your questions in because we do have some time.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so the first question that I have, Salome, is okay. So you started the presentation saying that the 5 services or subjects that are covered in legal aid are immigration, criminal law, youth, civil law, and mental health. But the nature of these 5 subjects or nature of the problem are not available in all of the regions.
Yes, they are available in all of the regions. Yes, all those services, all those nature of law, they are available in every region. Okay. It's just that in Montreal, there are different offices that take those cases. So there's a legal aid office that only takes immigration. There's another one that only takes criminal, another one only youth law files. But if you're in a region, it's going to be most of the times, and it depends of the region. I don't know all the legal aid offices of every region, but most of the time it's going to be one legal aid office that does all those kind of laws, just because there are less legal aid offices in region than there are in Montreal. Okay, perfect. So in the greater Montreal area, one office per nature of the problem, and in different parts of Quebec, it's one office that looks at the whole picture. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So with that in mind, what are normally the delays in finding a lawyer that can help you? Really depends of the legal aid offices. I'd say that before booking an appointment, you mean before seeing the lawyer, the time between you call and you see the lawyer. Step 1, just booking the appointment, and then step 2, once you pass everything, is there even more delays to find someone who can help you? Booking the appointment, you just have to call the legal aid office. So booking the appointment can go pretty quickly. Between the time when you call to book an appointment and you actually have your appointment, this depends of the legal aid offices. For example, for us in Pointe-Saint-Charles, our delay is about 3 weeks, 1 month, depending of the period of the year. So we have periods that are more busy than others. But for other legal aid services, for example, the one that pops in my mind is the Sud-Ouest, so Sud-Ouest Legal Aid Office. This one, because it covers more neighborhood, it can be longer before having the appointment with the lawyer. So I think it's about 1 month, 1.5 months. Okay. So this really depends of your neighborhood and in which region you are living at. I don't know the delays if in the region, but really depends. And that's it as well. depending on when you call. For example, for us, if you call during summer, some lawyers are on vacation, which means we have less appointments. If you call in March, everyone's there, so it's going to be quicker.
Okay. So basically, once you're in the database, you kind of stay there until a lawyer matches up with you.
As soon as you call to book your appointment, you're going to be matched up with your lawyer for that case. However, so if I take a case with you, okay, you come to see me, we make an application for a housing situation. We're going to do the case together, but when the case is closed, when the case is finished, I'm going to close that file. And if you ever have another problem, whether it's for a divorce or a will, peu importe, you're going to have to call back to book an appointment. So when you're matched with a lawyer, it's really for one problem. It's for one problem. If you have another problem in the future, you have to call back, book another appointment, and then go through the process again.
Okay. So I'm going to try and keep order to questions here. So with that in mind, whether you get a lawyer through legal aid or through a private practice, how do you go about paying either a lawyer that's in the legal aid office or a lawyer that works in a private firm?
You mean for the contribution? If you're
Yeah, how is it the same payment method or?
It's the same payment method. So the process and the test to see if you're eligible to legal aid, it's the same whether it's with a lawyer from a legal aid office or with a private practice lawyer. The payment is going to be made with the legal aid office. So we deal like with the administrative stuff, and then the actual problem, it's going to be with your private practice lawyer, but the process is the same. The only difference is that the private practice lawyer, you have to find it. So when you call us, you have an appointment with a legal aid office lawyer. If you want something else, it's totally in your right to choose your lawyer, but you are the one making the researches to find another lawyer.
So it's on you to find the lawyer that provides.
If you don't want a lawyer from legal aid office, you find someone else. Yeah.
Well, that's a perfect segue to the next question that came in the chat is what happens if your legal aid lawyer leaves the office that you're in?
Good question.
Yes.
We don't just close the file. Don't worry about this. Your file is going to be transferred to another lawyer from the same office. It's a situation, unfortunately, it's a situation that happens often in the legal aid offices because lawyers change quite often. And when it's the case, if my colleague leaves, whether it's just she quits her job or for maternity leaves because she's sick, all of her files, they're going to be dispatched between the other lawyers in the office. So we don't, you're not let down. No? We take care of you no matter what.
Okay, so I'm gonna flip now to kind of the eligibility process. So are you eligible for legal aid if you're low income, but you didn't do your taxes last year, so you don't have your
Of course. So it's not because you don't do your taxes that we cannot take you. Because if this was the case, we would have less files. Trust me. We ask you questions. So if you don't have your taxes, we're gonna ask you, for example, if you receive the old age pension and the QPP, we're gonna ask you how much you receive per month for the QPP, how much you receive for the old age pension. If you don't know it, sometimes people don't know the exact amount that they receive. We're gonna ask you a bank statement for the precedent month to see, and with that we are able to make the calculations to see how much approximately how much you made last year and this year. So if you don't have your, most of people don't bring their notice of assessment with them. We still ask for them, but if you don't have it, we can work without it, and we ask you questions just to see how much you make last year or you're making this year.
Still pay your taxes. Is it possible to exclude your rent from your liquidities? is, oh, go ahead.
No, but en fait, for the liquidities, we really take the amount that's in your bank account.
Okay.
So I take the solde, the amount really at the date you're coming to see me. So if you want to go make a big groceries before coming to see me, if you want to pay your rent just to reduce the amount that you have in your bank account, I have no problem with that. Sometimes people do that because for example, they're booking the appointment just before the rent passes by. So they're making, they're buying things to reduce that amount.
So even if the 1st of the month or the 30th, the 31st of the month went, no problem, it's all good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is us in our office, but if you're coming to see me today and you have 3,000 and you're a single person, which means the maximum normally that you can have is 2,500, and you tell me, oh, my rent is going to pass by tomorrow. I'm going to say, okay, just send me, for example, a screenshot of your bank account tomorrow. So I'm going to take that amount. We do the maximum to make sure you're eligible to legal aid. It's true that we have to work by the law, because all the criteria is to see if you're eligible or not. It's all, there's a law for this, so we have to respect it. But we're going to do our maximum to accommodate you.
Okay. And okay, I hope this question will be coherent. What happens in a situation that, let's say you're a caregiver for someone and you have a power of attorney? Can you open a file for someone? And in that, can you do the same thing if for a parent, if your parent is under a tutor, I can never pronounce it, tutorship?
Tutorship.
Thank you.
Would depend on the situation, I'd say. If you have a power of attorney, it depends of the content of the power of attorney. Sometimes the power of attorney can be general or can be specific for certain acts. If you have, if a member of your family is on tutorship and you're the tutor, yes, because and this depends as well, are you the tutor for that part? Because you can be tutor, but for example, only for, there are two categories for the tutorship, can be to the person or to the assets or both of them. So it's going to depend. Most of the time, we're going to ask to see the judgment according to which you're the tutor. So we're just going to check, is it legit or not? If you're the tutor for everything, then sure, no problem. For the power of attorney, same thing. But I take that question just to specify something else. Sometimes people call to book an appointment. When we confirm the appointment, they're telling us, oh, I cannot be there finally. Can my friend come instead of me? The answer is no. You have to come yourself, because when you come, you have to sign forms, you have to sign documents, and unless you have a power of attorney or you're the tutor of someone, you have to be the person signing. So someone else cannot come for you. It's really you, unless you're in those two situations.
Okay. So it's a case by case.
Yeah, it's a case by case. Okay. But in doubt, book an appointment, and if it's not possible, we're gonna tell you how to do it properly or refer you to the good place.
And in that, if there's no one at a legal aid clinic who can help you because someone is under I can pronounce this, tutorship, or there's a power of attorney, can they then find, can an individual then go looking for a private lawyer at a private firm who can maybe help? Or is it
yes, they could, but you mean like a private firm, not a private practice lawyer? Yes, of course.
I need another coffee. Sorry, Salomé.
It's all right. You can as well look for a private attorney. You can always do that. It's better to check with if you're eligible to legal aid office. It's better to check with us to see if it's covered and if it's possible, because then you won't have to pay. And private lawyers, they're really expensive.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so someone asked a question in the chat, but it kind of borders on legal advice and not legal information. So
you
I
can
don't.
ask the question, and if I cannot answer, I'm
Okay.
gonna say.
Okay, perfect. So I'll scroll back up. So someone asked, and I have a rejig if needs be. Okay. How long does it take to fight your case with, I believe it's the CNESSD, after you lost your case because of a mistake that was committed or allegedly committed by a doctor, and it wasn't your mistake? And this person's case dates from 1999-2000.
Okay, well, I cannot answer now because it's not legal information, because it's just really specific to every case. And that's for all areas, for CNSST, but for divorce as well. It's sure that there are court delays. And every area, whenever the court, because you have the courthouse, but you have as well the housing court, the administrative court, there are delays, unfortunately, and we have to work with those delays. We cannot do anything for this. So there's that. It's sure that it depends of the file. I have files where the client comes to see me, we make a proceeding, and then a month later, it's finished. We finished everything. Everything's done. I have other files where it takes 2 years to wrap everything up, because sometimes it's the court delays, but sometimes it's the parties who delay the file for different reasons. So it really depends of your case and of your situation. So it really varies. And I've seen other files that can take 5 years, most likely in divorce. They can take like 5 years to finish. So it can be long, but it can be quick as well. Depends.
Well, with that in mind, is there a cutoff for delays? So let's say it's something's just stuck in the system, a case is stuck in the system for 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, God forbid. But is there a cutoff as to when someone
Not really. It depends. For example, if the file's delayed because for example, if I have a divorce file and the one of the party, they delay the file just because they don't want to get divorced, then there are things that can be done at court to accelerate the process. But there are still like the delay before getting a trial date, the delay, there are all kind of delays. But say 7 years, I would be very surprised, but 5 years in divorce I've seen.
So that just got me thinking, and this is a off the cuff question for you, Salomé. So what happens if someone files a case, and whether that's a parent or a caregiver or a spouse, and that person passes away during that waiting period and there's a delay? What then happens to, I guess, the person who has to take care of the estate?
It depends of the type of file. So for example, if it was, and it happened to me in a file recently, my client died, unfortunately. And for example, in housing files, most of the time, if the tenant dies, if we open a file at the housing court and the tenant dies, the file just closes. In other files, I don't have the word in English, les héritiers, sorry.
Oh, the inheritors.
The inheritors, the file is going to be transferred to them. So it really depends of the kind of file.
Okay.
Sometimes just going to finish everything. Other times going to continue with the inheritors.
Okay. It's never simple, is it? Okay.
Never. It's always in the specifics and different kind of situations. So it's difficult to give specific answers.
Yeah, it really is a case by case, eh?
Yeah.
So one of the last questions that came in are civil formal notices covered by legal aid?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Are civil formal notices covered by legal aid?
Yes, they are, but not in not in every situation. When you come to see us for a file, we have to see if the service is always covered, sometimes covered, or never covered. If the service is sometimes covered, we're gonna see does it have chances of success. So for example, if you're coming to see me and you want to send a formal notice to your neighbor, but you don't know the name of the neighbor, you don't know, you don't have all the information, and there are not a lot of chance of success, we cannot do that formal notice. If it's possible in a lot of situations, if you bought a computer and the computer is not working after 2 months, there are guarantees that have to be provided according to the law. In that situation, we can send a civil formal notice. For defamation, sometimes people want us to send a formal notice for defamation. Since this is not a service that is covered, this we won't be able to do, but most of the time we can send a formal notice. I'd say it's at least 10% of our practice.
So silly question, but just because as I asked, immediately my brain went, what is a civil formal notice?
A civil formal, good question.
Yeah.
Civil formal notice, I'd say it's like a letter. It's a letter that you send. Most of the time it's to your landlord. When you have a problem, it all starts by a civil formal notice. And it's a letter in which you tell the person what's the problem and what you want. For example, if I have a problem with my landlord, there are repairs that need to be done in my apartment, the sink is broken, the shower is not working, I'm gonna send, or by your attorney, he's gonna send a letter to your landlord mentioning him what repairs need to be done, and we normally give the person 10 days to respond to the formal notice, and if there's no response after that delay, you can open a file at court. So it's like a warning.
Okay.
We have on our website, I could share my screen. We have a template of a formal notice. If you want,
if there's a link, I don't know if
yeah, I can send the link in the chat.
In the chat, that might be the best thing.
I'm gonna send that to you now. But our website is only in French, huh, Elise? Wait, yes, our website is only in French, but I'm gonna put it in the chat.
So is a formal notice the same as the registered letter, you know, the one that has without prejudice, that famous?
Yeah, it's it's the same situation. We say without prejudice, and then you say what's the object. So for example, a dwelling located at the 25th 33 Rue du Centre. You tell who is it, who are we sending it to, and what's the problem, and it finishes without do govern yourself accordingly normally, and it can be sent by email, by register, post, by bailiff. Here we do it by bailiff because it's more formal, but it's sure that if you do it on your own, bailiffs, you have to pay them. You could just send an email with a confirmation of reception, or just by regular mail as well.
Okay. And I think
Elise, yeah.
Yeah,
I saw it.
I know your hand's up, but at least just put a question in the chat, which is, are adult children, oh, that's a good question, Elise. Are adult children with a serious handicap considered enfants à charge?
No, unfortunately, because most of the time, les enfants à charge who have an handicap, they receive welfare for them. So they are not considered as enfants à charge. It's really, you have three criteria. Two, you have to be full-time student, and you can be 20 years old and living with your mother, and then you'll be considered enfant à charge if you live with your parent, and you have to stay with them at least 40% of the time, which means that, for example, if you're coming to see me and you have your son 1 weekend out of 2, your son won't be considered as an enfant à charge because he's not with you at least 40% of the time. Okay. So it's all questions that we're asking when you come to see us, to determine in which barème you are.
in which category? Yeah.
Category, yeah, in which category you are.
So same thing would apply for, say, if a senior has to take care of their grandkids or grandchild.
Yeah, same thing. So we only take your income if you take care of your grandchild. If we won't unfortunately take him into consideration, you will be considered a single person unless he's a full-time student. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So my next question, because I was going to leave this until the end, is for legal aid, are services are they bilingual services or even in other languages?
Yes, services are, it depends. In most of the legal aid offices, everyone speaks French and English. So that's for sure. French and English it's no problem. For the other languages, it depends of the lawyer. In some offices, I'd say the third language that's the most common is Spanish. So there are lawyers that speak Spanish, but it really depends of the legal aid office. If you don't speak French or English, we find solutions. So if you come to see me and you don't speak French, don't speak English, I had a client last week, she only spoke Spanish. We spoke by Google Translate. So we have ways. It's not because you don't speak French or English that we cannot help you. If there's someone in the office that speaks Spanish, I'm gonna ask her to come and translate. It's not gonna be as fluid as it was in French or English, but there are still ways to do, and we can always communicate by email. So I write the email in French, the person translates it in Spanish. I say Spanish, but can be any other languages. But it's true that the procedures, they are going to be done in French or English. For example, if you speak Spanish and you want a divorce, we will discuss by Google Translate email, but the procedure, the application for divorce, it's going to be done in French or English at your preferences, because the judge he doesn't speak Spanish, so the judge will have to understand it, and it can be done in French or English.
Okay, perfect. So even outside of the Greater Montreal area, in theory, people should be able to access legal aid services in English.
I hope so. In theory, yes. I would be very, very surprised.
Okay, and if your documents are just in, let's say, in English, like
that's fine as well.
There's no problem there. Do you need to get everything translated, or do you?
English, no. English is fine.
Okay.
Spanish, sometimes some documents need to be translated, but this is not something that you would have to take care of. It's the legal aid office who does it. So if for divorce, if all your marriage certificate is in Spanish, we're gonna have it translated. You give us a Spanish version and we take care of everything.
Okay.
But
so
for your eligibility documents, these are, say, even Spanish, I'd say I'd be okay with it if I understand them. So yeah.
Okay, so but if all of your documents are saying English, in theory,
that's fine.
Sorry, there's construction outside the whole building.
All right.
Sorry.
Montreal, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Détour everywhere. But if your documents are in English, in theory, there should be on-site translation services possible for people.
Yes, or just you give me the documents and I'll read it. I'll read them in English.
Okay.
Don't need to translate them.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not seeing any other questions, and I
just I said I specified our website is in French, but most of our documents, so in the link that I sent in the chat, they are bilingual. So there's one in French and in English. So the website's in French, but documents are both languages.
Perfect. Actually, I did just think of a question, and we can end on that note. Salomé, in your experience, which kind of legal aspect is there most demand for? Is it the civil? Is it housing? Is it immigration? Is it
I'd say in my practice, I don't do immigration, criminal, youth. I'd say it's really family law. Because there are more and more domestic violence, conjugal violence, and those kind of cases, they take a lot of time because first of all, you need to work with the client. Most of the time they have trust issues. It's difficult to build a relationship. So it's important to take the time with them so that they feel in confiance. They feel
And they have confidence
in
or trust.
confidence with you. Thank you. They feel in
Or
confidence with
trust,
you.
yeah.
To build a trust. And it's a process when the other party did conjugal violence. Sometimes they're not really nice in the file. They do everything to not make it work. They make everything just for it to be the longest possible ever. We actually did an article recently this month on that. I don't know if Elise could send the link or could send you the article. It's a really nice article on the violence judiciaire. So those kind of files, they're the one that take the most time, but they take a lot of energy as well. Yeah.
Do you, and this is the final question.
That's all right.
Do you, because I'm just, as you're talking, questions are popping in. So do you see a lot of cases, if you can disclose, of, say, people turning to legal aid for elder abuse, for example, like maltraitance, as they say in French?
Not much.
Really?
Not much. I think it's because in Pointe-Saint-Charles, we have the Centre des Aînés, which are really present in the neighborhood, and they have people who you can speak to, and they can refer you to the good person. So here we don't see a lot of it. I think it's because of that reason.
Okay, so there's intermediaries and that
I think people would tend more to call there rather than us.
Okay.
But if someone was to come to see me for this, I would take the case. I would look at the case and see what I can do. But it never happened actually since I'm here.
Knock on wood. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Salomé.
Well, thanks to you. And don't hesitate to look on our website to call us if you have any questions.
Perfect.
Thank you, Katia. And just in order to wrap up, Salome, thank you very much for your time, and your colleague Elise, who's been there putting in links into the chat box. So I hope people are pulling them up. Obviously, it's a very vast service, and you have many offices throughout the province. So your master link and a name of the commission, very important to help people who are listening and watching that are in the region, so that they can find their own local services and be able to approach them, and also let their members be aware of where they should go. For all our, so thank you for giving us your time and your expertise. For all of you that are on, I'm going to sound like a broken record. But you are going to have the survey. I think Brendan is going to put the link up in the chat box. Oh, I see that somebody is saying we didn't ask their question. Oh dear. Well, it's a bit late now, Jewel.
I believe that was the one about opening the case from 99-2000. Was that asked, Katia? Maybe you can just jump in.
From Jewel.
Yeah, it was asked, and I said that it's not possible for me to answer because it's going to depend of your situation and of your case. But you can call your legal aid office to see to have more information about it. I just put in the chat the link to search your legal aid office with your postal code.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Just to get back to it, Brendan is going to put the link for the survey that we ask everybody who attended to please complete. And if you don't have time to grab the link now, when we send out the recording and the presentation, it's up now. Please, you'll have a link for the recording, but Katia always sends a link for the survey. If you haven't answered it, it's the most important. End of February, we are sending our funders the final report. We need those stats. I can't emphasize it enough. So we're finishing early compared to what we normally do, but I'm sure nobody is going to complain. But I'd like to take a second to wish everybody a safe, relaxing, a peaceful holiday season, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Do enjoy and have time with family and friends. Our office, Seniors Action Quebec, will be closed till January the 2nd, starting around the 23rd of December. And the next webinar will be January the 21st on the benefits of mediation. And the last one on February 11th is going to be about putting your affairs in order and your funeral arrangement options. People don't want to go near that. Costs are going up. So you'll get a lot of good information. So have a marvelous holiday, everybody. Enjoy, be safe, and we'll see you hopefully back January the 21st. Thank you. Thanks, Brendan. Thanks, Katia.